My cabin tablet still showed Andre Whitfield in seat 2. Eric Dalton reached for the handcuffs on his belt. The reservation status had not changed. Andre was still marked as boarded and verified. He remained beside the window, with both hands still visible, while Raymond Haskins stood in the aisle saying the questioning was over. "We're done asking." I was working the forward cabin on Westbridge Air Flight 532. By then, I'd watched enough of the verification to know nothing on my screen explained why restraints were entering the situation. A few minutes earlier, Andre had boarded without any problem. His paper pass scanned green at the aircraft door. His assigned seat was 2A, and after I welcomed him aboard, he placed a small carry-on in the overhead bin and sat with a worn paperback and a sealed card on his lap. There was nothing unusual about him until Tyler Madsen came back onto the aircraft. Tyler said he was checking the premium manifest before we closed the door. Instead of comparing names at the galley, he stopped beside Andre and asked to verify his first-class assignment. Andre handed him the boarding pass. Tyler read it, then asked for government identification. Andre gave him his driver's license. The name matched the reservation. The photograph matched his face, and my cabin tablet still showed the same confirmed seat that had appeared when he boarded. I noticed the extra verification. I did not challenge it. Gate agents sometimes had access to reservation details cabin crew could not see, so I assumed Tyler had found something specific enough to justify the second check. That assumption lasted until Raymond arrived. Raymond was the airport security supervisor assigned to our concourse, and he approached Andre as though Tyler had already established a problem instead of merely asking a question. He checked the boarding pass again, looked briefly at the license, and then asked something that had nothing to do with whether Andre was the passenger assigned to 2A. "Did you purchase this ticket yourself?" Andre looked at him for a second. "Yes." Raymond asked him to prove it. At that point, the original verification was already complete. The seat matched. The reservation matched. The identification matched. Yet Andre opened his phone anyway, found the Westbridge charge, and showed Raymond the transaction, with his name and the exact fare attached to it. Raymond barely glanced at it before saying, "Account access could be shared." Andre lowered the phone. "What remains unresolved?" His voice stayed even. Raymond reacted as though the question itself had crossed a line. "Watch your tone." From row 3, Claudia Barnes lowered the magazine she had been holding and looked directly toward the aisle. I stepped closer. "He boarded normally," I said. "I haven't observed any cabin problem." Raymond turned toward me. "This is security now, Caleb." I knew the hierarchy behind that sentence. I also knew what my own screen showed. I moved back toward the galley, opened an irregularity report, and entered what I could personally support. Seat 2A had been boarded and confirmed. The passenger had remained seated, and I had observed no disruptive conduct before security became involved. I added the time and saved it. Raymond then told Andre he needed to leave the aircraft. Andre asked for the basis. Raymond called it an unresolved security concern. That wording was new. Eric pulled Andre's carry-on from the overhead bin and opened it on the empty aisle seat. Inside were ordinary travel items, the paperback Andre had been reading, and a laminated Westbridge credential with Andre's photograph, and the word executive beneath his name. Andre pointed toward it. That should answer another question. Raymond examined the card, turned it over once, and dropped it back into the bag. I can't verify this here. The evidence had changed again. The suspicion had not. Seconds later, my tablet refreshed with a new operational note. Passenger uncooperative. Removal requested. I looked from the screen to Andre. Since boarding, his pass had matched, his identification had matched, his payment record had matched, and the company credential Raymond had just rejected matched his face as well. No new conduct had appeared between verification and removal. Then Eric opened the handcuffs. That's when I realized what had gone wrong. Andre was no longer being asked to prove a disputed fact. He was being required to keep producing proof until the people questioning him finally felt satisfied. Eric Dalton closed the first cuff around Andre Whitfield's wrist while Andre was still beside seat 2A. Andre did not pull away. He stood when Raymond Haskins ordered him to stand, kept his hands visible, and said only once that he was not resisting. I was close enough to hear the ratchet tighten. As Eric guided him toward the aircraft door, Andre's carry-on slipped from the aisle seat and opened against the carpet. A charger, his paperback, and the sealed card I had seen when he boarded slid into the aisle. Someone stepped on the envelope before I could reach it. A dark shoe print crossed one corner. I picked it up and placed it inside the book. Andre saw me do it. He said nothing. Raymond took him through the jet bridge while boarding remained suspended. The cabin started moving again in small ways. People lowered phones, adjusted bags, checked the time. Claudia Barnes did not. She came forward from row 3 holding her phone. I recorded the part before they took him out. I gave her the incident contact form. Keep the original file. She nodded. Then Raymond returned. He wanted the cabin report completed before we closed the flight. He looked at the note on my tablet. That should read security removal following passenger non-compliance. I looked at my original entry. Andre's seat had been verified before Raymond arrived. I had observed no disruptive conduct before the security intervention. I can document the removal, I said. I can't document non-compliance before it. Raymond's expression hardened. You saw him refuse to leave. After the security escalation, he stared at me for several seconds. I expected him to push harder. Instead, he walked away. I saved the note again. That decision felt small compared with what had just happened. Later, it became one of the few records created before anyone knew who Andre was. The flight never closed. About 10 minutes later, I was standing at the aircraft door when a woman named Monica Hale crossed the gate area with 2 operations employees behind her. She did not speak to Raymond first. She went directly to Andre, who was sitting on a bench near the gate with the cuffs still on. Mr. Whitfield. Her voice made Raymond turn. Monica was Westbridge Air's chief operating officer. I knew her from company briefings. Raymond clearly did too. She looked at Eric. Remove those. The cuffs came off. Raymond started explaining that Andre had failed an identity verification. Monica interrupted him. His name is Andre Whitfield. She paused. He founded Westbridge Air. No one in the gate area needed a louder version of that sentence. Raymond looked back toward the aircraft. Tyler Masson went pale. Andre rubbed one wrist, then asked Monica for the gate scanner history, security dispatch record, and my cabin note. He also asked for Tyler's original reason for opening secondary verification and the authorization Raymond had relied on before searching the bag. He did not ask her to fire anyone. He did not mention owning the aircraft. He asked for records. Monica suspended discretionary passenger removals across Westbridge operations. An integrity review would determine which standard had been used. Immediate safety events could still be handled normally, but a passenger who had already completed verification could not be removed solely because an employee remained uncertain. That afternoon, Nora Beck from Independent Passenger Integrity interviewed me. She placed the training material on the table between us. One sentence was highlighted: continue verification until the responsible employee is satisfied. I read it twice. There was no guidance on when an employee should consider themselves satisfied. Ticket matched. Identification matched. Reservation matched. The policy still allowed another question. Tyler later told Nora that Andre had not looked consistent with the first-class booking. Raymond said the documents had not resolved his concern. Different words. Same stopping point. Their own judgment. Nora then ordered a narrow review of earlier cases in which identity and reservation had already been verified before additional proof, search, security, classification, or removal occurred. Some had legitimate reasons that appeared later. Others did not. Passengers of color appeared disproportionately in that second group. By the end of the meeting, Westbridge had suspended the sentence from the training manual. For the first time, the investigation was no longer asking why Andre had failed to satisfy Raymond. It was asking why Raymond's satisfaction had ever been part of the standard. The final review did not ask whether Andre Whitfield had belonged in Seat 2A. That question had been answered before Raymond Haskins ever reached the aircraft. Nora Beck started somewhere else. She placed the old training page beside Tyler Madson's gate record, Raymond's security report, my cabin note, and the scanner history from Flight 532. Then she pointed to the line that read, "Continue verification until the responsible employee is satisfied." That wording had survived years of training revisions because it sounded cautious. The review found the opposite. It set no end for suspicion. Tyler had watched Andre's pass scan green. He asked for identification because Andre did not match his expectation of the passenger in 2A. When the ID matched, he escalated. He did not close the verification. During his disciplinary interview, Tyler admitted appearance had influenced the decision to continue. Westbridge terminated his employment. Raymond's conduct went further. He had seen the confirmed reservation, matching government identification and payment record, yet continued demanding new proof without documenting any new discrepancy. He treated Andre's question about what remained unresolved as resistance. He authorized the bag search, dismissed the company credential, and ordered restraint. My cabin note became important. It established the condition before Raymond arrived. No disturbance had been reported from the cabin. Claudia Barnes's recording supported the same timeline. The independent licensing review found Raymond had used security authority after the original verification issue had been resolved. He had no separate safety basis for it. Westbridge terminated him. His aviation security certification was later revoked through the applicable licensing process. Eric Dalton received a different consequence. He had not initiated the questioning, but he applied handcuffs without independently confirming whether Raymond's non-compliance label described current threatening behavior or simply Andre's refusal to keep producing proof. Eric was suspended and required to complete recertification before returning to passenger contact security work. Nora kept the earlier cases separate from those findings. Her team reviewed only incidents where reservation and identity had already matched before employees demanded additional proof, initiated a search, classified the passenger as a security concern, or removed them. Some files contained new conduct that justified escalation. Those remained unchanged. Others contained no new objective discrepancy. In that group, passengers of color appeared disproportionately. Where unsupported security labels had affected passenger records, the labels were corrected. Travel losses directly caused by those interventions were reviewed for reimbursement. Then Westbridge rewrote the verification standard itself. Under the new procedure, 3 matching elements created a formal system state: verification complete, active reservation, government identification, current travel entitlement. Once that state appeared, an employee could not keep checking because the passenger still seemed unusual, inconsistent with the booking, or simply failed to satisfy someone's instinct. To reopen verification, the employee had to document a new objective discrepancy arising after completion. The rule also removed 2 practices that had appeared in Andre's case. Employees could no longer demand personal banking records when the airline's own fare record showed valid payment. Passenger property could not be searched to prove entitlement to a seat. Any search or removal required an independent safety or legal basis. My department changed its reporting instructions too. Cabin observations had to remain separate from security classifications. If I saw a passenger seated quietly, that observation stayed in the record even if another department later labeled the same passenger non-compliant. I was assigned to the first recurrent training session because my original note had preserved that difference. There was no promotion attached to it. I did not think there should have been. I had waited too long before speaking. Andre stayed outside the personnel decisions. He recused himself from employee appeals and let Nora's office and the board handle the findings without his ownership authority determining the outcome. Several weeks later, I attended the evidence closeout because my cabin report had been part of the preserved file. Nora returned the personal items that had remained sealed during the investigation. Andre checked the contents quietly. The paperback was there. So was the card from his mother. One corner still carried the dark mark from the shoe that had stepped on it during the removal. Andre opened the book somewhere near the middle. He placed the card between the pages. Then he closed it. If fairness, dignity, and accountability matter to you, subscribe for more. This story is fictional.